Hello, this is Vincent. Welcome back. I have a new story for you tonight. This channel is for discussing dogma, all kinds of dogma. It's mostly about religious dogma and how dangerous it can be, but any dogma can be dangerous. So if you like the videos, please hit like, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell so you know when I get new videos, share it with people. And leave me a comment. Comment helps with the YouTube algorithms, and I do appreciate it. All right, this one is called the Dogma of Oaths. And I can't say that word very well, but it's O-A-T-H-S. Dogma of Oaths. All righty, here we go. As a child, I was taught to never swear an oath, even flippantly. Yet many of my friends when I was young would casually say, either to add credibility to a story or, in jest, phrases such as, I swear to God, and I swear on my mother's grave, even though our mothers were very much alive. Looking back, these are harmless expressions intended to convey hyperbole. As a result of the training from my family, though, hearing these utterances gave me anxiety. Why? Because we were told that the Bible said to never swear. Does it really say that? Well, yes and no. Hebrews tells us that God swore an oath to Abraham. Yet, when the Almighty did this, he swore by himself, since there was no one greater by whom to swear. Sure, but that's God. He's allowed to do that. Except, what about Leviticus, in which God says not to swear by his name falsely? And Deuteronomy, where it said to fear God, serve him, and that by his name you will swear. So it's okay to swear an oath, just not falsely? It seems so, since Exodus tells us not to take the Lord's name in vain. Aha! So that's the issue. Thus, if you're going to swear an oath, do so by God in a serious manner, and you're fine? Maybe. To be sure, oaths were serious business in ancient Judea. And if we delve more deeply into the subject, what does the process of oath swearing reveal? Perhaps surprisingly, that swearing an oath is a sign of powerlessness. Wait, what? Think about it. The one who has the least power in a relationship is the one doing the swearing, because he or she is the one in need, the one in the subordinate position. Before we dive into specific examples, I want to make something clear. For the sake of this discussion, I will be using oaths and promises in the same way. Here's a quick elucidation of my reasons. Generally, a promise is seen as merely giving your word, and an oath is more serious. Why? Because traditionally, there are consequences for breaking an oath, because oaths are often pledged to a deity, whereas a promise can be made to anyone. Yet these technical differences aren't important. So what is? The power differential, which is the same whether an oath or promise, and is why I will use the terms interchangeably. All right, now let's move on and focus on the power differential in these types of relationships. Perhaps you want to borrow money, and to assure the lender that you will pay it back, you make a promise. To be sure, if you have no intention of repaying the loan, you walk off with the cash, laughing all the way. The promise or oath you swore worked. Conversely, you might promise to repay, and do so, because you want to borrow more from that person in the future, say, a larger sum, which you may or may not repay. Yet, who has the power? The person to whom the promise is made, because he or she has something the borrower wants. Let's return to God's oath to Abraham. According to Hebrews, God swore the oath to prove to Abraham's heirs the unchangeable nature or character of his purpose. To offer a guarantee, if you will. Okay, boys and girls, test time. Who has the power in this instance? God or the patriarch? To answer this question, it's helpful to remember that God was merely one of many deities in ancient Ur, Abraham's hometown. Therefore, the Almighty needed Abraham and his descendants to believe in him. For what power does a deity have if he or she has no followers? A clear illustration of this power differential is demonstrated in an old song by the artist Meatloaf called Paradise by the Dashboard Light. In the ditty, the singer tells a story of a young couple parked in a car, presumably in a secluded spot. The young buck is seeking carnal knowledge of the young maiden, who balks and firmly states that she will only succumb if he promises to love her to the end of time. Enthralled in passion, the young man quickly swears the oath, ardently declaring that if she gives in, he will love her to the end of time. So she does, and he keeps his promise, which is illustrated in the final verses, in which he sings that he's praying for the end of time so that he can end his time with her. Who is in the more powerful position? She is, because she has something he wants badly enough to swear an oath for it. I remember when my friend Ted married and, like Meatloaf, promised to love his wife Marilyn to the end of time, for richer and poorer, in sickness and health, forsaking all others. At the wedding, both he and his newly minted bride end their utterances with, "This is my solemn vow." One night, at his wit's end, Ted calls me. He sounds desperate, devastated, his mental stability seemingly hanging by a thread. I immediately invite him over. It is spring and way too windy to be outside, so we sit in the tiny living room of my small apartment. Let me take you to that moment. Ted slumps in a chair in a corner, behind a small round table. I rest in a recliner several feet away, facing him. His eyes dart continually back and forth between me and the door, like he's expecting a home invasion at any time. So frazzled and agitated is he that, at any moment, I fear Ted will flip the table on its side and hunker down behind it. After allowing him the silence of a few minutes to collect his wits, I ask, "What's going on, brother?" Instantly, tears roll down his face, but he only says, "She promised." "She? Marilyn?" He nods. "Promised, huh?" He sits up, angrily slams his fist on the table and responds, "To be faithful, the Jezebel." The small, inexpensive piece of furniture vibrates, like water ripples after a rock strikes its surface. The concentric circles of waves reflecting the shock of the sudden violence. Since Ted is the mellowest guy I've ever met, I unrecline and lean forward, concerned. "What happened, Ted?" "Can I stay with you for a few days, Vincent?" "Sure, Ted, of course, but..." "Vincent, She was in our bed with someone else." "When?" "Just now, dude. I mean, we promised." I don't say a word but think, no, you promised, my friend. You promised. And now, like Meatloaf, you're praying for the end of time. Okay, it's quiz time again, folks. Since both had committed, who was in the power position in Ted's marriage? Answer, the one who didn't take the vow seriously, which is the one who needed the other the least. In this case, Marilyn. Yet, in her defense, can marriage vows sworn before God really be promises, since the New Testament tells us not to swear oaths? In that case, aren't they merely empty, non-binding phrases? Perhaps. Matthew is explicitly against promises, saying, "Do not swear an oath either by heaven, for it's God's throne, or by the earth, for it's his footstool. Do not swear by your head, for you cannot make even one hair white or black." And this is supported in James, who states, "Above all, brothers, do not swear either by heaven or by earth or by any other oath, but let your yes be yes and your no be no, so that you may not fall under condemnation. intriguing. Perhaps the New Testament writers recognize that oaths are a sign of weakness and necessity. Regardless, James encourages believers to reject oaths and build a reputation for being a person of your word, by which you demonstrate integrity. Hold on. Ought a Christian make promises or not? The Old Testament says yes, but the New, no. And I thought that the entire Bible was to be believed. True, so I ask you, what do the faithful do when the good book contradicts itself? The typical answer is to adhere to the old unless it conflicts with the new. Okay, since Christians aren't to swear oaths, is Marilyn off the hook? No, because she was a Christian and broke her word, which violated James's injunction. Again, whether you swear an oath or not is not the issue. What is important? Recognizing that in any relationship, the one who needs the other the least is in the power position. This is the same, be it an intimate association, friendship, job, in fact, any relationship in which there is an exchange. Remember that when gathering followers, Jesus promised people eternal salvation. Why? Well, he, like God to Abraham, needed followers. What would have happened if the sons of Zebedee had refused to leave their father and fishing nets behind to follow Jesus? Who needed whom more? Alrighty, folks, thank you for listening. I appreciate it. That is the end of my story. If you like it, hit the like and subscribe. Share the video with your friends and leave me a comment. Until next time, this is Vincent. Good night.